And we are live and we are back. Let's go. I'm Cory, host, one half of the Quarter Full Effect podcast. I'm back like I never left with another installment of Money Mindset here on the Quarter Full Effect podcast. We discuss health and wealth, finance and fitness, and everything in between. We want to make sure you save more and save less and keep making better your best. Yes, yes. However, when my coach Jordan went on paternity leave, Jordan, how long has Jordan been on paternity leave? We are going to get it figured out. But anyways, when he went on paternity leave, I started these money mindsets, previously known as Love Wednesdays, where we get straight to the financial information, no filler in between. And I know y'all see the topic of today's video. Look, why does childcare cost so much? That's slightly rhetorical question, but we talked about this a handful of episodes ago. But that was just how childcare is as much as college tuition. Now they're saying childcare is a mortgage, which I've known, but it's different when the studies come out and, everyone is saying as much as a mortgage. So now we're going to get into not just talking about childcare when it comes to college tuition or, same amount as college. That number was like 18,000. But the fact that childcare and a mortgage are pretty much the exact same thing now and what families Americans are dealing with when it comes to childcare. But before we get started, you know what to do. Comment, like, share, and subscribe. Shout out to the YouTube algorithm. Make sure you leave those rating reviews on the podcast platforms as well. My information, as well as my coach Jordan information, can be found in the description on YouTube. All right. And I want to update y'all on the taken out of context. I've been working to see how the audio sounds when I stream the videos, running into some issues. So, and when I say run some issues, the audio is just like hit or miss. And for the videos, you guys obviously need to be able to hear audio. I think that's pretty straightforward. So I'm gonna see what I can do on that standpoint because I'm gonna see if I can record locally and not. I'm not streaming this live, but it might be doing some type of streaming thing. So I'm gonna see if I can record this locally, and hopefully that makes it easier as far as the audio coming in so it's not breaking up when you guys are listening to it. But in the meantime, I may just have to do the X, formerly known as Twitter, but the Twitter post, the X post, instead as far as just the text until I'm able to get the audio stuff figured out for you guys to be able to hear that. But the taking out of context is closer than you think it is. All right. And again, monthly car payments. It's the beginning. It's a new month. It's beginning of June. So we need to look at the monthly car payments. Last time, what was it? I should make a note. 726 or what it was. It's probably still 726 again. Now it's saying 735. We're up at 735, right? So we have $9 for the monthly car payment for new and $523 for used. All right, let me make a note for this so it's easier for me to remember. New is 735, used 523. All right, how does that look? N and U. All right, okay, that's just for me. All right, so again, monthly car payments. Again, what's going to happen? A car payment is going to be $1,000 a month, or are we going to see what's going to be more consistent? Car payments being on average $1,000, or should I say what happens first? Car payments being $1,000 on average, or on average, most people having 120 term for their car payments or 10 years for their car loans. I'm thinking $1,000 is going to happen first because we're still not even at 96 yet. I think the average is still around the 84 range, so 7 years. We're still not even at 8 years yet, but I think we might get to $1,000 a month before we get to 10 years as far as average. But look, we're gonna see. Student loans next up. When student loans pop up, student loans will pop up. Y'all know I have no issue discussing anything related to student loans here on the podcast. So there's not. We'll have an episode up for y'all when it's time to talk about student loans again. All right, and then last but not least. This is for entertainment purposes only. Myself, no Jordan, fitness finance professionals. Anything here is for entertainment purposes only. You need to seek a professional and do your own research before taking any action. All right. Let's get into y'all locked and loaded childcare or your mortgage. If you had to make a decision of whether or not you were going to pay your mortgage or pay childcare, which would you do? That's not to say that this article is talking about that, but since they're the same and Americans are struggling so much financially, most people are struggling financially. Since everybody's talking about how they're struggling so much when it comes to money, let's get into childcare and a mortgage. Why they cost so daggone much? All right, all these daggone pop-ups. No, this should be this is a short article, so this shouldn't take that long. But childcare, I'm interested to see these numbers, what the averages are. In Maryland, childcare is, well, let me not say what the average is, but just due to the houses that people have, in this area, childcare for one kid is in like the let's just call it $2,000 to make it simple, but it's definitely above 1,500. But it's in that $2,000 range, and you're kicking out more than 2K for your mortgage or your rent, rent or mortgage here. So in Maryland, it's not that amount, but that's for one kid. If you just want to double it and say two, average family has 2 kids now. I guess for people who are having kids, I would say yes, because I know it goes down. One of my friends just was telling us about their childcare situation. Their kids are about 3.5 years apart, and the youngest one costs the most. Sorry, I'm thinking as I'm talking right now, thinking out loud. I think theirs was, yeah, it's close to $1,000 a week. So yeah, yeah, if you got 2 kids, it probably is. So I want to see here if they're just saying, if we want to get into 1 kid, 2 kid here, parts of the country, things like that. All right, let's get into it. Childcare costs more than a mortgage payment or rent almost everywhere in the U.S. There is no escaping it. There is no escaping. You want to talk about monopoly that people need to get broken up. The daycares are not a monopoly, but they're monopolizing the price. Like, look, you either gonna pay it or you're not gonna pay it. We chose not to pay it over here. Anyways, this last updated May 15th, 2024. This is by Vanessa Wong. Here we go. Again, it's your first time tuning in. Appreciate y'all. Make sure you hit that like button. But the authors of these articles usually give me hell, but shout out to, is that Vanessa? Not Vanessa, but Vanessa Wong. Anyways, we're spending easily 55%. 55% of our pre-tax household income on our mortgage and childcare. So when I normally we talk about spending income. Normally, when we talk about the average income or the median, whatever it is, that usually is the gross, right? Or people's pre-tax income. Really, they get that from the IRS. So it's Treasury, IRS, same thing, essentially. But when people are talking about how much money they make, things like that, most people are usually talking about their gross, but really what they're taking home and how much they have to spend. On this, no, on the pod here, on the channel here, we're not hopping between if we're talking about gross or net. We do our best to say what we're talking about to give some more clarity. I did not think this number. If we're talking about pre-tax income, my goodness, we were talking about on the single and married episode as far as how much it costs to live as a single person and as a married couple, a family of 4. And I was talking on that episode about gross versus net. Here we are talking about 55% of pre-tax household income. Remember, y'all, you only get to spend 90% of what you make. Okay, because the minimum federal tax is 10%. All right, for the tax rates. The lowest tax rate is 10%. So you only get to spend 90%. So they spending 55 plus 10, that's 6. They got 65% of their income. I know it's pre-tax, but tax is 10% of that. The 100 is gone. I said this is going to be a short episode. You guys, as I always say, you guys will know before me in the sense of you'll see the timestamp before I actually know how long this episode is, because I don't know how long it's going to be. But when it comes to childcare, there needs to be a significant conversation for couples pre-marriage when it comes to what you're going to do about the childcare situation. We decided not to pay it over here. I mean, I decided a long time ago that I wasn't going to pay it. And one of the things was like, finding someone, shout out to my wife, she stays at home with our son. She's the best. But that cost is insane. We're talking about paying another $2,000. And the way I think about childcare, everybody's situation is different. But I think from a math standpoint, it's pretty much the same for everybody. For some people, the mom stays at home, or the shout out to stay at home dad's a completely different conversation. But in short, one of the parents stays at home because the income is essentially null and void due to the daycare cost. And when you add in the fact waking up early, trying to figure out appointments, things like that. Usually if the person as long as the health care for the family is not attached to the person who's going to stay at home, usually that person will end up staying at home just due to the math of the situation. A lot of people can put themselves in a situation where staying at home isn't as big as a financial impact as far as two people are working, right? Two income household going down to one income household isn't as big of an impact if they prepare for that. Most people know that they want to have kids before they have kids. Maybe not. I mean, what type of data do we have on that? But in short, most people know that they want to have kids before they have kids. And so you can start saving, maybe saving money for that situation. So if you do have to drop from a two income household to a one income household, you already have some money saved, not from a saving standpoint, as far as like emergency fund savings, but just some more money saved due to dropping from a two income household to a one income household. Let's not even talk about the principle or the fact that you already need to be operating as a one income household as far as living on one income. If you're DINK, right, dual income, no kids. Let's talk about a married couple, right, with no kids. You already need to be living off of one income. You can still have two incomes, three streams, however many streams of income you want, but you need to already be living off of one income. One of the benefits of that is in this situation, in theory, you won't feel as much of an impact from dropping down from two incomes to one income. You'll still feel it because less money is less money, just like more money is more money, right? And I'm about to lie there. But a lot of times the issue is people are spending all their money. Let's not talk about from a pro or con standpoint, whether you're paying off debt or living on lifestyle, things like that. Outside of an investing and saving standpoint, people are spending all of their money on other things. And so when in the situation where they have to drop down from a two income to one income household, it's not just the income hit that they're feeling. They're feeling the income hit, the new child, or you got two kids now, whatever it is. Then you don't deal with the postpartum, all that type of stuff. You're also dealing with the lifestyle change, not that just comes with being a parent or a parent of two or more, but the lifestyle change, the fact that now you were spending less money. So now you can't go out as much as you used to from a dollar amount standpoint, not a time, but a dollar amount. You don't even have the money. Even if you did have the money, you don't have the time. Even if you had the money as a parent, right, you don't have a time. But let's say you did have the time, right? You got the grandkids, your parents are watching them, right? They're watching the grandkids, whatever, aunts and uncles, somebody's watching them. So even if you have the time, now you don't have the money. You're dealing with that new stress on top of the new stress of being a parent, right? All those things are being combined together at one time. All right. And that's one thing that when I say you wake up, go to work, come home, don't go on the vacations, aggressively pay off your debt, do some very extensive family planning, things of that nature. People are failing to do that. And that lack of planning on the front end ends up coming back to haunt you on the back end. That's the compound interest I talk about. So you didn't prepare, right? You didn't invest for your future. And now when you get to the future, you don't got nothing. All right. But if you live at least off of one income, right? Again, if both of you make 100K and you spend all of your money, $200,000 that you're bringing in, if one of you has to stay home with the kids, now you're at $100,000. That is a big hit. When really, if you're making 200K, you want to do what you can to live off of maybe 50 to 75 in that range. And then saving the rest. By saving the rest, you won't feel that impact from a lifestyle standpoint because you're saving. You're not touching that money. And then you'll be good to go because at least, even though you're losing 100,000, you're still only operating on 50, 75. And we just talk about a take home amount. Let's say one person's bringing home 6,000, one person's bringing home 4,000. So you got $10,000 monthly income. You want to do your best to live off of 4,000 at most, but really close in that 33,000, 35 range, 3,500 range. Now, some of you are saying, Corey, where am I supposed to do that at? That's not my problem. My problem is to show you the map and let you know that it's possible. Whether or not you're willing to live within your means, I want to help you do that, but that's a decision you have to make. All right. Anyways, let's get into it. We didn't even start the article yet. All right. Look at these little two boys playing here. I can't tell if they're brothers. They look like they're brothers based on they might be brothers based on the haircut. Anyways, the Hot Wheels. Oh, taking back. It's probably something new now. Oops, excuse me. What's it say? Average cost of childcare for two children is now great. Yep, okay, we're talking about two children. Average cost of childcare, this article is saying, is now greater than the average rent in all 50 states. So rent, not mortgages, and greater than the average mortgage payment in 45 states. That's insane. That is insane. I hope they give us the numbers of what it actually is. Housing costs may have gotten out of control, but again, so in short, people have two mortgages for a family that has you have rent, right? I mean, you have rent or a mortgage, right? I mean, if you don't have a paid off home, then you have a mortgage or a rent payment, unless you're in a situation where, you're renting for a family member, something like that. But insured people have 2 mortgages or 2 rent payments. Insane. 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 And people wonder why they can't get ahead financially. And it's I want to get to the article. I said it's not going to be a long article, but it's one of those things where you really have the conversation. Excuse me, have to have the conversation about not just someone staying at home, but what your lifestyle looks like before you have kids, and doing what you can to put yourself in a position where, do you have a job that's going to allow you to stay at home and work, or how long you can not work and then come back into your job? Do you have something, because now in this day and age, there's all this stuff that you can do remote now, right? Gig economy, whatever it is, but you can generate income on the side. And again, like I said, you're spending all your 4, 5, 6,000, 7,000, whatever you're making a month. And so it's going to be a big hit from a lifestyle standpoint. Let's talk about if you can or can't take the hit or not, right? In this situation, we're saying you can't take the hit from a quote unquote necessity standpoint. But we're saying, all right, instead of you making, $7,000 a month, this person that's staying home, they're now making, let's say, $1,500, $2,000 a month because they're doing something on the side. But it's allowing them still to be a full-time parent, stay-at-home parent. They can pick up something on the side. If you're talking about I'm losing $5,000 less dollars from just a lifestyle standpoint that you're dealing with, that's going to be a big hit. Again, from a saving/investing standpoint, you're not touching that money. So yes, you're not going to see your account growing as much, but that's not going to change how you're living your lifestyle on a day-to-day basis. All right. Because my wife stays at home, but she still does some work on the side. She does event coordination for a restaurant here. So again, just fully remote. She does a couple hours a day when she has time for it, and then boom. Now again, we're in a different situation because my wife is a disabled veteran, so she got income coming in regardless if she works or not. But still finding that time to work when she can, right? But again, in our situation, like I said, we still do the live off of one income situation. So regardless if she was working or not, it wouldn't impact the financial house, so to speak. Literally and figuratively, using my own phrase there, financial house. And on top of that, for people who are in situations where, regardless of the bank accounts are joint or not, you need both people's incomes, not as far as the total, but you need both people's incomes to pay the bills. So when I talk about having a separate checking account or a bills account where your bills come out of, and you just replenish that, you don't have that account built up. And so now you're in a more strange situation because you may make enough money as far as one person. They make $7,000 and the bill's only $5,000, but they make $7,000. How much they get paid, right? They get paid $3,500 each check. And so they don't have enough money to pay for all the bills when they get paid based off of when the bills come in. So they need that other person's income to supplement from just a math and a timing standpoint until they get paid again. So they make enough to pay for the household bills overall, but they don't have the money in time when the bills are actually due. All right. So it's a lot of layers in this financial conversation when I'm staying at home, living off of one income, things of that nature, that if you just correct and you make the sacrifice to correct it, some of these things won't be as stressful as they seem. For people, if you're not operating in the red, so you're not using credit cards or anything like that, you make enough money. But the issue is when the money is due, you just need to sacrifice however long you have to sacrifice as far as your discretionary income that you have to save it up in your bills account. And then boom, you will never have to stress again because you have your bills account that is in short running you that money. It's not a loan because it's your money and it's in a savings account. But in short, you're having your last paycheck of the month whenever you get it already saved. I get paid on the 5th and the 20th, right? I'm in this situation. I don't make enough in one check to pay for all the bills. So I have a bills account, and that's where the rent and all that stuff comes out of, utilities, all that type of crap, BG&E, Verizon. And then when I get paid on the 20th, I just replenish that account. All right. So it's all the same set of money. But I had to take the time to, back when I could save money like it was nothing. So it took me one check. But I saved that money ahead of time because I already knew I was going to be in that situation. I was like, I make enough to pay for everything, but not when it's due. And being how much rent is, it's going to take a good amount of my check. And so I'm not going to be able to, we aren't going to be able to get groceries whenever we want. So when I get paid, right, we got all the money for the groceries for the month. We got all the money for the gas, all that type of stuff because I have that bills account sitting there. And so there's no stress on being able to take care of things that are variable necessities. Gas, when we need gas, we got to get gas, right? We already got all the money there. If we need groceries, already got the money there. We don't have to wait. Again, that's from living paycheck to paycheck, right? We're not waiting for the next check. All right. Yes, housing costs. I got to read the article, Corey. God damn it. God damn it. But there's another expense that now possesses an even greater burden to many American families: childcare. Jessica Norwood, a working mother of two. All right, so yes, looks like a single mother here in North Carolina, and host of the financial literacy show, the Sugar Daddy podcast, said daycare costs, shout out Jessica, when her two children were ages 3 and 4, added up to nearly $3,000 per month. My goodness. And in North Carolina, that's definitely going to be above the average rent or mortgage. Almost twice her monthly mortgage payment of $1,580. Boom. We were spending easily like 55% of our pre-tax. Okay, so it sounds like she was married then. Because she's saying we. 55%. So Jessica's the one spending 55% of their pre-tax income on our mortgage and children, or excuse me, childcare. And then, again, that's just childcare. Last thing I'll try to say about this is going on my childcare rants. I already paid the money for like our housing, and we already spend the money for housing and to feed our son and all these different type of things. Then you're telling me you want me to spend more money, right, for him to go to daycare. It's not like my son was going to daycare. I would buy him less food or less stuff, right? I'm already spending the money now for the stuff that he needs. Then I'm going to spend more money because I got to put him somewhere else so my wife and I can go to work. I'm like, why would I spend more money? And he's not going to I'm not going to buy him less infant milk, right? He's going to need infant milk for the daycare, right? When he's going to daycare, I'm not going to buy less infant milk for here. I'm probably going to buy him more infant milk, right? I'm going to buy him more diapers so I know that he has diapers when he's at daycare, right? My son just turned 9 months. All the different diapers to make sure he has more clothes. So at daycare, he has, and if he has blowouts, babies, we having blowouts out here. If y'all did, for those who didn't know, now you know. Look, it'd be poop everywhere, and sometimes they might pee on the clothes, things like that. Whatever, you got a boy, different probably if you got a girl, but I got a boy, and so all these different type of things. I'm gonna make sure we have an overabundance because he's not home. First, when I know he's at home, it's like, okay, if he shit everywhere, that's cool. We can be in a diaper for a little bit. It's not that big of a deal because he's at home. When he's at daycare, you have, I assume, laws, but definitely rules and regulations that the daycare is going to have you abide by, that you have to have all this type of stuff. I'm not spending extra money. It's sort of the same thing like with child support. It's like, how are you going to make me spend money on my child every month? I don't buy my son like toys every month. I don't spend that. How much money? If we take out infant milk, he might get $100 spent on him every month. I'm not spending money on him every month. He gets the use of all these utilities that we are already paying for, things like that. I'm not about to have someone tell me I have to spend money for him. Sometimes kids be acting bad. They might not get nothing for their birthday or get anything for Christmas. But look, for people in child support situation, the judge gonna make sure by law you gotta spend that money. It's insane. And that's one of the things people have to look at as well. All right. Jessica Norwood grew up in Germany. Her family looked into getting a nanny or an au pair, but found disadvantages of the both. It's no wonder so many people, i.e. women, leave work to stay home with their children. Norwood told Marco Watch in an email, it's all excruciatingly expensive. Norwood said her friends who work outside of the home and have young children all face this dilemma. I bet they face a dilemma with these damn student loans too. Anyway, it's a frequent topic of conversation in our group because there is no escaping it. And in most cases, there are no other viable options. The average cost of childcare for two, it says greater in rent in all 50 states. And the average mortgage payment is 45. It's greater than the average mortgage payment in 45 states. It's a new report by the nonprofit Childcare Aware of America. Okay, it's something else. Childcare is considered affordable. One thing too, when they're talking about there aren't that many affordable options. Your parents or grandparents are not just working longer, but having to work longer. On top of that, when it takes a village, you're not growing up around your cousins. Most people, right? You're not growing up around your cousins or your aunts and uncles, right? Or maybe some people not even grow up around your grandparents, so you don't have that not immediate. It's your immediate family, it's your parents' immediate family, right? But that extended family that I would say Gen X and before, so definitely baby boomers had baby boomers who people didn't join the military, obviously didn't have this like my parents, but for all my all my aunts and uncles that stayed at home, or not stayed at home, but stayed in the same hometown. My grandparents and my aunts on both sides watched a combination of their grandkids, right, and nieces and nephews as far as growing up. My mom did it because my mom has such a wide age gap amongst her siblings. So my mom talks about all the time how um, she was watching her nieces and nephews. That's just how it was. But you have to live around your family for your family to watch your kids, right? I mean, it's only my mom, my dad, and my brother that live here. My wife's family lives in North Carolina, her entire family, and then everyone else in my family band lives in North Carolina as well. So it's literally just my parents here. Childcare, that's my parents' decision. My dad was in the military, so I didn't move here. Anyway, childcare is considered affordable if it costs. It's back to the 7% number. That's crazy. 7% of a household income. That household income number, though, is usually not gross, it's net, according to the Department of Health and Human Services. Yet the typical Department of Health and Human Services needs to talk to the Department of Treasury. Yet the typical cost of childcare, for one child, which was $11,582 on average in 2023. So last year is 10% of income in married households and 32% of income for single parents, according to, I guess, Childcare of America? Childcare Aware of America. Childcare Aware of America. That's a crazy acronym. Anyways, the actual expenditure is often higher as the average American family has 2 children, and most single parent households also have more than 1 child, since the Bureau data shows. Yeah, I mean, most people have siblings, right? So most households are going to be at least have 2 kids in them. My goodness. Shout out to single parents out there trying to figure it out. They're trying to figure it out. Some of them figured it out, but my goodness. Financial challenges facing families have impacted some people's decision to have children. This is so true. Well, we talked about this with the student loans, though. All right, remember, people with the most student loan debt are people without kids. All right, so if you want less student loan debt, then have kids, get married and have kids. But married people without kids have the most student loan debt. I have to look at that data. The most people with the most student loan debt are Black women and Black men. But Black people, I believe, are the least married out of the major 4 like race groups. But then, interesting how the data like adds up like that. Anyways, as we wrap up, clicked on the wrong thing here. The reality is that for most families everywhere, childcare is very expensive, and it is a very large part of a family's monthly and yearly budgets. That is true in every region, said Ann Hedgepeth, Chief of Policy and Practice at Childcare Aware of America. There may be different extremes, but childcare prices outpace almost everything else. They childcare and student loans. Shout out to kids, right? Shout out and student loans. I mean, the cost of college. Before I read this last paragraph, one of the things. Oh my goodness, it's just so much. It's just so much information, and I'm tired. I'm ready to eat my Cold Stone. But what about the fact that not only people are choosing to have less kids, but they're waiting to have children? One of the ways to decrease your childcare costs is, as far as the concurrency of it, so occurring at the same time, is having one child. But a lot of people either not having children at all, so eliminating childcare costs, or only having one child, which is a handful of my friends. That's something they want to do. I would say I'm thinking crazy hard about this. I would say probably close to, if we include my friends who don't have kids, I would say close to 75% of my friends either have one child and have said they're only going to have one child, right? That's the plan, right? I mean, nobody, to my knowledge, no one's got, a vasectomy or anything, but they plan on only having one child. I just said that. Watch, if they pop up with kids, my goodness. But they either said they've already had a kid and said they're only going to have one kid, or they're probably not going to have any kids at all. But there's only, I would say, a handful of us, including my wife and I, who plan on having 2 or more kids. It's not that many who already have. I have two sets of friends. They already have 2 kids. I have another set of friends. Shout out to them. They just had twins so the first time they got pregnant, they had twins. So I guess that's an outlier. So not count them. But I would say, yes, definitely I forget what the number is as far as how millennials slash Gen Z wanting to have kids slash two or more kids, but I know it's like bordering on that 50% line as far as, leaning towards more than 50% not wanting to have kids at all or something like that. So I definitely can speak from that experience. But one thing that what my point I was trying to make was that the numbers do show that people are waiting later to have children. And since, I mean, just the science, the older women get, I think it's around 30 years old, they have around 10% or so of their eggs. 12%. On average, women have around 120,000 eggs by their 30s, which is about 12%. Yeah, so around 10% or so of their, I'll give you the 12%, right? Let's call it 20, right? They got, 10, 12, 15, 20%, whatever of their eggs left. Well under 50% though, when they reach their 30s, and I believe 35 is geriatric pregnancy. And so, but then when people talk about the complications you can have during birth, right? All these different type of things. But by having children later, as far as from an age standpoint, as a woman, you're giving, I say giving up, but you no longer have that room as far as from a timeline standpoint of having an age gap in your child to decrease these child care costs, which I'm trying to get to. So they were saying they had children 3 and 4, right? So they're 1 year apart. Well, it's going to be hard to have your kids 4 or 5 years apart in age if you don't have your first kid until you're 32, 33, right? I mean, you ask any OBGYN out there, any, labor and delivery medical professional out there, any doctor and anybody, the recommendation is not, you know, to have your children in your late 30s, 40s, right? There's a handful of women where, shout out to the women out there who just, give birth because they just, they just got they're the natural talents at it, right? But it's not like the medicine is out there, the data's out there in the medical field to have women give birth in their late 30s and 40s. Not that it can't be done. I know women who have geriatric pregnancy as far as 35 who have children in 30s and fine, but you give up that room from a medical or science point of view of having that gap, as far as your children. I mean, they're going to tell you now. Some of them it is, a little bit of fear porn, right? Where they're just scaring. They're not say scaring you, but then you're not failing any tests. They're just saying because of your age, you're high risk, right? But you do. I mean, at some point in time, you got to listen to the data as far as that's out there, and you have to be mindful of that. And especially, I mean, your first kid, right? I mean, you can't. And a lot of, ooh, you get so much stuff. You can look at birth control, and it's coming out more and more as far as infertility, and it's so unfortunate. I've seen the amount of I'm gonna say this because they posted it publicly on Facebook, but girls that I went to high school with who are now in 30, 31, and I'm thinking like they've been married for some years, right? And you don't want to speak infertility, miscarriages on people, but it's just like y'all been married for a while, and I'm like, I'm surprised you're having kids. And once they finally do give birth and their child gets here, they post about how that they've had, struggles getting pregnant or multiple, miscarriages. And then you see the data coming out in relation to some, or if not, I'm gonna say all, but some of the birth control out there, and that it can cause complications or infertility. And so if you've been on birth control, which a lot of women have since what, 7th, 8th grade, middle school. I mean, I don't know, middle school girls are starting their cycle. So if you've been on your period and been on birth control since you've been on your period since you started your cycle, since you're 13 years old, I mean, and you're still on it in your 30s, that's 20 years. I mean, this type of math people need to do out there. So all those type of things get equated into it. And so if you do decide to have children, in your 30s, as far as to start having children, you do have to think about, how far you're going to have them apart just from an age standpoint. And if you do, not saying have them in your 20s, but at least in your 20s, you will have that runway from a math standpoint of, okay, your kids can be maybe 3-4 years apart to lessen that daycare burden on you, that childcare burden. However, you do got to go back in the trenches again in 3 and 4 years. My brother and I are 9 years apart. And so, my parents, just said, all right, we're going to do it again. Here I am. But you do have to talk about, that with your spouse. And you do have a kid and it's like, all right, do we want to wait another 3-4 years to go through this? Or do we just want to be tired for a handful of years, be done with it? That is something that's real. But just from a math standpoint of having the kids far apart, that's something that people need to consider when not when I say they're doing the family planning, but when you get out here in the dating world, because people think they got all this time. It's like it's not that you're old in your 30s, but people and I'm like one of the I mean, all they say on the internet, I am against like, yes, you're young in your 20s, but you're only getting older. I don't think people understand. You only get older every day. You don't get younger. Today is the youngest you're gonna be, and you just get older every second, you get older and older, right? And so don't piss away your 20s, right? Yes, your 20s is a time where since it's the youngest you're going to be relative, right, to 30s, 40s, 50s, and 60s, right? You have time to make mistakes and you can still recover, but don't make mistakes because you don't want to operate in a position of wisdom, right? The best way, whatever the phrase is, my I'm too tired right now. But you learn best from other people's mistakes. That's what a wise person does. You learn from other people's mistakes. Don't go make someone else's mistakes. Meaning, don't stop picking trash ass degrees. Or even if you aren't sure what you want to do, don't do undeclared. Just go to community college and pay cheaper. Don't pay all this extra money for undeclared. It's one of the worst. I would say this. I would say you can make the case that going undeclared, right, straight out of high school into college is worse than picking some of these trash degrees because you're intentionally paying more money for gen ed classes. Like, you don't know what you want. And so just go to community colleges to figure out what you want and pay less money for credits they're going to transfer. At least people who are declaring for a trash degree, they at least we can say, hey, they knew what they wanted to do, even though it was, something that's not going to make them any money and taking all this debt for something that's not even going to be able to, pay it. But hey, at least I can say, at least at least you thought you knew what you wanted to do. There are so many factors when it comes to this childcare. Because one thing that doesn't, children don't just show up. All right, bro. All the parents out there, look, once a mistake, twice the habit. If you talking about you didn't know because you had your first kid, cool. But once you have one kid, if you decide to have a second one, I heard say I'm talking about you out here struggling. Look, if the first kid is enough, the first everyone is different, but my goodness, if you don't have a kid, you don't know what sleep deprivation is. Now I see why it's against the law. Like you cannot drive. It is insane. It's crazy also too to see your body be able to adapt on a 2-hour cycle, a sleep cycle, but it is insane. Those definitely first few weeks, but some people are still monsters. Some people are still going through it. Everybody's different. Our son, he's sleeping. He started sleeping around like 4 or 5 months through the night. So, we got our sleep back over here and we haven't had any sleep regression. Knock on serious wood. Right. I shouldn't even, talked about that. I do my best not to talk about it to jinx it. But just when it comes to childcare now, like, that I'm in these shoes, so I'm not speaking, from a place like, well, I don't have kids. No, now that I don't have kids, but now that I have a kid, and since I'm from the stay-at-home perspective, as far as my wife, so we don't have these daycare costs and so much into the finance, into the money. It's like, even as we're working, my wife's working to get 100% increase. That's another $1,500 or so. And right now, if she were to go to work and so my son would have to go to daycare, it would take up not all of, but a good amount, probably close to 75% or so of what she's currently getting as far as disability. She's at 90%, and it would be about half, probably around half of what she would get when she's at 100%. And that's like, okay, cool. And right, and that's money that's always coming in. Then she'd be working, right? So she would obviously have to go work to offset that. And in Maryland, minimum wage, I believe, is $15. So by definition, she's doing a full-time job. She would offset it just, from the simple math. But it's like, is it worth it? Can we find a way to manage our money to give you some type of semblance of what it would be like if you were to work full time, right? Because you work full time and obviously earn enough to offset the cost of daycare and then have money on top of that, right? But like, how much money is it going to be? Now, for people in a situation where both of you are making well into the six figures, different conversation, right? But if you're looking at having less than 50% of the person who makes the least amount of money's income after paying for daycare, as far as just total, not like, they pay for it, but it's total out of your budget. If one person makes 6,000, one makes 4, and daycare is 2,000, so the person makes the least amount, they got $2,000 left. It's like, what are we doing with $500 a week? What are you doing with $500 a week? Now, again, a lot of people, you got to go because you got to service this debt. We want to talk about that. All right, let's wrap up. In the largest metro area, New York, typical monthly cost childcare for 2 children is $2,634. Jesus Christ. Please come back and save us from this childcare cost, Jesus. While the typical on this lovely Sunday, while the typical monthly housing cost is $2,451, insane. According to Economic Policy Institute's Family Okay Budget Calculator, estimates the typical cost for a modest standard of living. All right. Oh my goodness. Again, excuse me, locked and loaded. End of the episode. Childcare costs more than a mortgage payment in 45 states and more than rent in all 50 states. Insane. There's no escaping it. Jessica Norwood said that she is spending 55% of her pre-tax household income on a mortgage and childcare. Again, this article is by Vanessa Wong. All right, that's it, y'all. Locked and loaded. End of the episode. Again, look, necessities, debt payments, investment, lifestyle. My goodness, childcare or your mortgage. Look, I say don't pay either. Find a way. Pay your mortgage. Childcare is great. And we're not even getting to the fact that you have to if you don't pick your child up on time, I believe they charge you fees about a minute. How did and again, I know I believe comes like unfortunately like a CPS type issue, right? Like you gotta come pick your kid up, right? And the contract, I believe they're only watching your kid, like they're only responsible for your kid, like until this time, things of that nature. But like I heard they charging about a minute. It's like, what is going on? And when you add on again, it's not just daycare now, right? I found this one lady on TikTok who talks about she's talking about she hate men, but she's a mom, wife, whatever. So she got kids. So she's talking about it. She got 4 kids. She's talking about daycare and stuff. But she's talking about summer camp. It's June 2nd right now. You guys can hear this on June 3rd. But she talks about summer camp and how much summer camp is as well. It's like you got to pay for summer camp too. And then if you pay for daycare, it's likely you can also be paying for after school care, right? They're in school now, so you're not paying for daycare. You are paying for it in your tax dollars, right, for school. But you have to pay for maybe even before and after school. I did before and after school care, first grade and fourth to fourth grade. I stopped going for either in 5th grade. So I don't believe I did. I can't remember. I'm pretty sure my mom said I didn't do daycare. Military anyway. So now my mom was in and out of jobs, but military wife. So my dad said his job's moving him. So my mom gotta get another job. My mom was smart though, and she was in the finance industry, and so in banking. So she worked at the local credit union, bank, whatever that they were getting stationed at. Regardless, though, it's just stuff that you have to think about when it comes to having kids. You're talking about the after school care. That's the one thing too. Not saying you have to like you have to raise your kids how you want to. I'm talking about these kids are grown. When I say grown in the sense of like raise them to be able to take care of yourselves. Again, I'm a 90s baby. I know it's probably against the law now, but I've been staying home by myself since I was 8 years old. Not for a long period of time, but you're talking about in the house by myself for multiple hours, meaning 2 or more, since I was 8. Since I was 8. Now, my assumption now, get my parents in trouble. I assume the statutory limitation, whatever it is, child. I mean, I'm a grown adult now, but I've been doing since I was 8 years old. Now, was that kid when I would stay home? I would call my mom, and it would say press 0 if it's an emergency. I press 0. Talk to my mom. She says she's in a meeting. What's wrong? I said, how I cook the rice, But I was like, it is an emergency. I'm hungry, but if you're in a situation where, like I said, I didn't go to after school before care once I hit 5th grade. So my parents only paid that for the 4 year, first through 4th grade. Imagine if I say they raised me, not saying they intentionally did it, but I was in a situation where I still couldn't stay home by myself, in 5th grade. Well, why not 5th grade? Because in 6th grade, there is no after school and before school care in 6th grade. Not to my knowledge. There might be now. I don't know. All right, I haven't been looking that stuff up yet. I kind of put that stuff with my wife to figure out now. And she, tells me how much it's going to cost. But to my knowledge, there isn't before and after school care for a middle schooler. In 5th grade, people like it or not, is one grade before 6th, right? I mean, 4th grade is 2, but 5th grade is 1 grade before 6th. And it's like your 5th grader can't stay home by themselves. What is 5th grade? 12? 5th grade is 11, 12, right? Let me think. 12th grade is 17, 18, right? Yeah. Whatever. 5th grade is 12 years old. 11, 12 years old. Like, my goodness. And then they're going to be driving in 3 or 4. Some states you start driving, I think, at 15. Some might be 4. I mean, depending, in the country or not, they probably are driving. But I know you can start driving, leave North Carolina like 15. They're going to start driving in 3 or 4 years. You tell me they can't stay at home yet? My assumption is if you've been raising this child for a decade and you haven't put them in position to be able to stay at home yet, definitely in 3 or 4 years, they're not going to be ready to drive. But you're going to have their ass out here on the road with me. What? Those are all the things, right, that compound into this conversation. It's like, are your kids ready to stay home? Because then when it comes to, and again, everybody says that the older generations would say this, and I got friends who are like this too, because some of my friends are the oldest out of their siblings. They said they've been watching all their siblings since they was 8, 9 years old, right? Once their parents was done having kids, they said, I've been watching my siblings. I was 8 or 9, all of them. I got one of my best friends. He got 3 younger siblings. I think it's 9 or 10 year age gap between them. He's been watching them his whole life. That's 1993, baby. He's been watching them his whole life. He don't do it no more because they grown. But if the oldest child, not that it's not their responsibility, but everybody was complaining about these damn costs. Or we're talking about the money, financial aspect of it. And it's like, well, if your oldest child is not ready to stay at home by themselves until they hit middle school, because you're just forced right there in 6th grade, until middle school, well, you're never going to be able to recoup the cost. I mean, at least do something to recoup the cost, right? If you don't want to decrease your budget, gain skills to increase your income, right? You don't want to increase your income or decrease your spending, and you don't want to put your child in those position, your oldest child in position to at least be able to stay home by themselves, right? As soon as possible. It's not like in 5th grade I was home for like 10 hours by myself. School was over at 3:30 in elementary school, and my mom would probably get home. My dad would get home first. My dad probably get home like 4:30. It's not like I was home for hours on end by myself. My brother's 9 years older than me, so he's in college now. By now, because I'm in 5th grade, he's in college. But it's not like I was at home. I wasn't latchkey. I wasn't at home, all night by myself. And not to mention, my next door neighbors. Let me not say their names. There's two girls. The oldest sister was 2 years older than me, and then the younger sister was 1 year old, 1 year younger than me. The younger sister, she was never at daycare before after school care with me. She never was. Her older sister watched her. I mean, actually, their parents did too. Her mom and dad too. They didn't get divorced, but they watched too. But her older sister was 2 years older than me, so I know for a fact when she was in 3rd and 4th grade, her sister's in 6th, 7th grade. You tell me a 7th grader can't watch a 5th grader, a 6th grader can't watch a 4th grader for a couple of hours? I'm talking about siblings now. Your siblings, we live here whatever. Maybe I don't know what I'm talking about. So I guess talk to me in 10 years, like when my kids are in this situation. But my son, he's the oldest. He's not gonna be forced to watch his younger. My wife and I are still discussing it. Right? My wife keeps saying we're gonna have twins next. Lord have mercy. Breaking news if it ends up happening. But he will definitely know how to watch his younger sibling. I won't say siblings, right? I'm not trying to speak multiple children in the situation, but he will be well versed on how to watch them, how to put stuff in the microwave. I know y'all don't know how to do stuff because let's talk about Gen Z crying when it comes to taxes. Like there's things in life you need to learn how to do, and a lot of this stuff is your parents putting this stuff, this level of information, this level of responsibility on you. And when did we come to the point where older siblings can't watch younger siblings? What? My brother, like I said, I would say my brother's 9 years older than me. My brother's 18. I'm 9. I mean, my goodness, he can watch me all for a long period of time. Now, part of the issue too is, as I wrap up, as this episode going on an hour, people don't put their kids in a position to be self-sufficient. See, I was 8 or 9 years old. I could heat up my stover's lasagna, right? I could heat stuff up in the microwave, and 90s baby, but I entertained myself. I was on a video. I was on a video game. If I was home and we had electricity, which we did, obviously, right? It was good. We didn't need I didn't grow up on Wi-Fi, right? Because it wasn't out yet. I was on a game. Like I could play video games 2-3 hours, and I would go to sleep. Like y'all kids don't know how to put themselves to bed. I don't know how this conversation. Like you kid can't do the night. I'm talking about. I mean, and then here's the thing. I was advanced, not like a genius, but I skipped classes. Went to high school I graduated middle school with high school credits type of thing. And in elementary school, I was in the advanced classes, things of that nature. So maybe it's me, but it's like your third grader can't take care of themselves. Like they don't know how to go to sleep on their own. They don't know how to do their nighttime routine. Maybe they don't, because a lot of people be complaining now how expensive dental care is. It's like, dang, you don't know how to brush your teeth at night? Get a shower at night? Like, what are we talking about? And probably not, because some of these damn kids gonna be potty trained. They like 4 or 5 years old. These big ass kids. They walking, squatting. They damn near grown, and they still got the big ass pamper on. That's why you're struggling financially, because your kid you took so damn long to potty train your kid. Not talking to people out here whose kids got issues, but for people whose kids ain't got no issues at all, hurry up and potty train them. Hurry up and wean them off this formula. If you buying formula, if you breastfeeding, that's different. But if you buying formula, hurry up and wean them off this formula, so you ain't got. When we went to my son's appointment, and his doctor's pediatrician looked us in the face and said, "You can start feeding them solids now." I said, "What?" He said, "Yeah, I mean, you still got to do, infant up to a year, but you want to decrease it as much as you can." I said, "You ain't got to tell me twice." Yeah, tell me twice. He eating. He is. We are feeding him food now. His teeth haven't come through yet, but you start. You can see him trying to come through. He's eating real food, because I'm what August 26, 2024. If I ain't got to buy no more infant milk, please, you ain't got to tell me twice. What? You know how much infant milk is? We go to Sam's, so we buy 2 cans. 2 cans come together. That stuff is like almost $60, and I buy it once a week. Like, so that's $240. That is just for him. It's not for none of us. It's different. But since he's a baby, he can't eat all that food, so we can just still cook for ourselves for a little while now, until his appetite grows, and just give him smaller portions. My wife don't even eat enough for one person anyway. As much food I had to eat her food. I'm like, yo, you can't be throwing this away. It's all this money you're throwing away. But I'm like, why would I want to not do everything I can? And I say, I mean, as a parent, to put myself in a position to recoup some costs for as long as I can. Why would I want to buy infant milk as long as possible? Again, if your child got some type of issue, I'm not talking about you. I'm talking about the people, your child's completely normal, and the reason they still on infant milk is because you just didn't put in the work to wean them off of it. You ain't do no type of raising, read no type of book. Y'all spend all your time on social media. You don't got no parenting stuff to help you out. None of that stuff, right? You just, oh yeah, they just still drink infant milk. What? That's it, y'all. Lock and load. The end of the episode. Comment, like, share, and subscribe. Shout out to the YouTube algorithm. Make sure you leave those rating reviews on the podcast platforms as well. My information, as well as my co-host Jordan information, can be found in the description on YouTube. Jordan, Stop Stalling J on socials. FinallyFit.live, where you can sign up for the 5:30 a.m. Monday and Wednesday Eastern Standard Time, 5:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, virtual training sessions, and you get access to the Google Drive. So if you miss a class, you still got access to the class in and of itself. All right. Myself, Silent_Cory on socials for the financial coaching information. All right. Again, y'all, I'm trying to figure out this taking out of context stuff, because I'm ready to get it started. I'm building a significant backlog, but I'm gonna do multiple videos on one episode. So it's probably not gonna be that much, but I'm trying to get that figured out so we can drop that. Again, we appreciate the feedback. Y'all giving me books to read in the comments section, right, y'all? So y'all adding stuff in my catalog that I got to read from a book standpoint. So we appreciate the feedback that you guys continue to give us in the comments section. Again, if there are any topics that you all want us to discuss, maybe I need to say that in the beginning of the episode, because most people are not making it to the very end. I need to say in the beginning that y'all need to. Not need to, but if you have anything you want us to discuss, let us know. All right. That's it, y'all. Remember to save more, say less. Keep making better your best. And I'll catch y'all in the next one.